is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We just want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you give us a 5-star review. We really appreciate that. And just to let you know, today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by Bet Online. We got a lot of good stuff on board for today. What advantage do the Braves have over the Philadelphia Phillies as they get ready to have first pitches coming up really soon? So make sure we're going to talk about that. And the Falcons just have to play cleaner. We'll discuss that and how they can do that. And also, and last but not least, and for the culture, Tom, come on, bro. And there's a rumor that a certain savvy veteran may be headed to the Atlanta Hawks. We'll talk about all that in For the Culture. But first, we have to talk about Max Fried versus Ranger Suarez. It is going down. It is not necessarily the Phillies ace, but it is definitely the Braves ace. Max Fried is a guy that has done pretty well in these day games. You know, the Braves haven't done well as a team as a whole. They're 24-27 overall for the businessman special, but I think that with Max Fried on the mound, I don't know about you, but you know, I'm feeling a little confident with our ace going to the mound.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I think that all of those woes that they've had with the businessman special come at the end of a series, not the beginning. So I do think that could make a difference. I also think the Braves collectively and even individually are on a mission. You have Matt Olson, who's on a tear, and I really think he's on a mission because he has an opportunity now to do something he never had an opportunity to do before, which is be on a contender playing for a World Series. You got Ronald Acuna Jr., who helped the Braves to get in position last year, but was not there to help them to finish the job. So definitely, I believe he wants that opportunity to be an actual part of it. And then I think the troublemakers. Like, how cool is that? We now know that Spencer Strider, he was out throwing today. He's on the 26-man roster. The expectation is that if they need him to go in game 4, he could be ready in the NLDS. So you think about that piece and how motivating that is. Michael Harris II, you've been watching this your whole life. And now you have an opportunity to contribute to it. And Vaughn Grissom won the same. So I just think overall, there are some motivations, taking nothing away from what the Phillies have been able to do. But there are some motivations and there are some advantages that I'll mention in a moment. But I want to hear your thoughts as well. But yeah, there are some other advantages that the Braves have, too, that make me even more confident about what this series will look like.
Tyler Masick isn't on the roster. And that's one of the things that kind of stood out to me when you think about what he did last year and just the epic inning that he had, to help to propel the Braves to that World Series championship. And I think that, with him not being there, he definitely will be missed. But, they have some good guys that are on that roster that are ready to go. And, also Jake Odorizzi. He's on there,
Yeah, that was interesting.
That's a thing that was interesting as well. So, and not Bryce Elders, but the cool thing about the baseball rosters and everything, it resets itself, and they can figure out who wants to be on the NLCS once the Braves get there. You see that confidence come right? Speaking into an existence right there, T. So I think that I'm not too concerned about Odorizzi being on there, but he did have a nice little outing last time we saw him, so not too concerned about that. Now, when you think about this series as a whole, though, T, I think there are some players that I feel like we should expect to have a good series, and I think that guy for me has to be Ronald Acuna, nephew Ronnie, like we like to affectionately refer to him as. I think that's the guy that has been chomping at the bit to get an opportunity to go out there and show what he can do when the lights are shining the brightest. And I think that he is probably one of the brightest and brightest players in the game, young players in the game. And I think he wants to prove that, because you could just see how when he was celebrating for that fifth NL East title in a row, he was just so excited. You just saw the exuberance that come over that came over him when they in that final out. And I just think that it's something there. I think it's something there, and I think Ronald Acuna is ready to put on a show.
Yeah, and I'm going to go in a direction that is a little off the beaten path because you guys have already heard me talk about Matt Olson. Right. I can throw Austin Riley in there as well because he's had some really great career numbers against the Phillies, regardless of maybe his up and down swoon for the last few weeks. But I'm going to throw in the outfield because the Braves outfield is outstanding.
Right.
The Phillies have problems on defense. They have problems on defense. So I think that is something to where, especially if for some reason you find yourself in a close game, I would trust the defense of the Braves versus the defense of the Phillies. And maybe that's something that's not talked about as much. But again, in a game that's tight, I choose them. And then my B, again, I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path, is I believe when you put bullpen to bullpen and Tyler Matzik is out, and David Robertson is out, I'm going to give the Braves the ability to manage through their bullpen minus Tyler Matzik, although we know how stellar he was last year, than maybe the Phillies being able to manage their bullpen without David Robertson. I'm just kind of reading up on and what their beat writers are saying. Mm-hmm. That's a serious loss, much more serious than maybe our media team down here is saying about Tyler Matzik. So watch that. We'll see how that may turn some things.
And to be honest, to add to what you're saying, like the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen wasn't as strong in the first place. And you know what I mean? That's actually what that was my key to this series. That was my thing. If the Braves are going to win this series, they have to get to the bullpen. And then when you're talking about them losing one of their guys that they actually can depend on, that's the thing that you have to pay attention to. And I think that's the Braves are going to be more than willing to take advantage of that because they did that against Ranger Suarez last time. He pitched an excellent in 6 innings, and then it all fell apart. And the Braves went with Hamo. That's they did really well. For my people in Dunwoody who don't understand what Hamo means. They actually went, and went on and win that game handily. So I think that's going to be the big thing for me as far as for the Braves. They have to get to the bullpen. I understand they have some really good pitchers coming up, and Suarez and Wheeler and Nola. But if you can get to that bullpen, I think the Braves will be fine.
Same. Absolutely the same.
Absolutely.
Now, for me, I think, we look at it from the perspective of looking at the roster and kind of seeing it, whether you go piece by piece or whether you talk a little bit about the roster overall. I kind of feel like that's the other piece collectively and even individually, but I'm just going to go collectively. Collectively, I just think the Braves up and down the roster, they're just better. They're just better. And I think here's the funny part. We of course connected with our girl Maria Martin on Sports Extra on Sunday. So we talked a little bit about maybe that standout player in this series. The funny thing is when the three of us started talking, we went all over the place. That's what I loved about the conversation because the three of us did not have the same person, right?
Right. Yes.
That speaks volumes to the Braves. That talks about something that we all know and love about them, which is a versatility.
Yeah.
Yes, their power.
They can beat you in so many ways. Yeah.
Exactly. There you go. Yes, their power at the plate, but what underlines those home runs would be extra base hits. What underlines those home runs is the ability to steal a base.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the kinds of pieces that I think really will really make it difficult to call a standout player. I chose Michael Harris II, but I also said whomever you would choose or Maria would choose, it all makes sense to me because I believe any and all of these Braves can step up and make something happen.
No doubt about it. We are looking for Onyeka Okongwu to step up. And the Hawks are, financially backing that. So they picked up his 4th-year option as well as they picked up Jalen Johnson's 3rd-year option today. And I think that, T, when you think about these type of moves, like not necessarily the splash moves, but Just something that that some of the young guys who have flashed and shown that they can play basketball, they're
Yeah.
actually making sure they're sticking around, for that,
Mhm.
because you're gonna need some guys that aren't necessarily making that max contract type deal. And I
Yep.
think Onyeka, Okongwu, and Jalen Johnson are definitely those type of guys.
And I really like that because it feels like there's a reward there. It seems like Nate McMillan saw those guys progressing. I mean, Onyeka Okongwu, it really goes back to the season before
Yeah.
because, like I say all the time, if you want somebody to give a big trouble, and this takes nothing away, of course, from Clint Capella, but if you really want us to know the player on this Hawks roster for the past 2 seasons who's given Giannis Antetokounmpo and everybody else fits, it's double up. It's been
Mhm.
Onyeka Okongwu. So you need that presence, that person who really can comfortably go between the 4 and the 5 and make stuff happen. A nice backup. I'm so excited about him because, and also from what he's been doing over the summer, I think the Hawks looked at that and said, hey, we see him trying to get that mid-range jumper and kind of add to his
Yeah,
toolkit because we know
indeed.
where he is offensively. But I think they really see that piece. And then I think the other piece there is this, as you mentioned with Jalen Johnson, there was a stretch where literally Jalen Johnson had like 11 of 11. It was something crazy. And watching him play for the Skyhawks, being on their broadcast team for a couple games, you could truly see the maturity from maybe the first game that I called with them to the very last. So I'm excited about that as well. And like you said, that's just the Hawks saying, hey, we've got some pieces right here already who know the system, understand the system, buy into the system, who can back up our big guys, our big keys, and just really fill out this roster and give us depth.
The Falcons have found out they have some pieces to be able to compete because they're sitting at 2-3. They actually was in a battle against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the top of the NFC South, and we all know what happened in that game. But there
Yeah.
were some other things that we need to talk about and pay attention
Mhm.
to because the Falcons need to play cleaner if they want to be able to continue to compete in the NFC South.
Mhm.
We'll talk about that. But first, T, we have to talk about betonline.net. So I did a little surfing, did a little research, and I started going through up and down the betonline.net website. And, I was looking for some information because I was trying to figure out what does the spread look like for the Falcons against the
Yeah.
San Francisco 49ers. And they're sitting here, and the 49ers are favored by 5.5. Now, I know you're saying, like, wow, at home? Yeah, normally the home team gets 3 points, but so that means that, hey, these teams are closer than what you may think. So if you need some more information as far as like, okay, now which way do I bet, Jarvis? Now that you explained it to me like that,
Mhm.
betonline.net has all of that information just for you, whether it's in podcast form. They have all of everybody, all the experts trying to tell you what you need to do in order for you to win some money. So, and if you're not into the spreads and everything like that, and you want to kind of make it a little easier for yourself, you want to bet the over or the under. The over under is 43.5. So, hey, if you trying to figure out which way you need to go to betonline.net today. You can download it on your mobile device and get all the information and news that you need to make the best decision, because Bet Online is where the game starts.
So, Jarvis, after getting past the referee debacle on Sunday, if you have actually gotten past it, if your ATL sports assessment is done,
Yes.
you can also look at the fact that the Falcons kind of had some other things that low key kept them from winning that game. So, yes, we can point to those last two plays, if you will, but real talk, it's about the fact that they also played out a character. And what we mean by that is the Falcons have really done a great job this year of cleaning up some things that Arthur Smith talked about over and over again in the offseason. Did he not, Jarvis?
Yes, he did.
And literally, and I remember asking him a question about pre-snap penalties. And when I tell you, I saw a vein raise up and pop out.
Right.
So
As well it should. Right.
as well as the Falcons really took that to heart, and we saw it play out in the first 3 games. The fourth game, however, Elijah Wilkinson in particular had 3 by himself. So I think about the fact that the 49ers, very formidable opponent, you have to play a tight game against them. So I wonder if they need to make adjustments, if any, to actually play a clean game against the 49ers, or if it's one of those situations, which I think it may be as well, where you just go back and you say, okay, what was causing Elijah Wilkinson to try to get off the line that quickly, or why weren't they able to play a clean line and at least eliminate that as being the reason for them not moving forward?
You know what? I think it's just a matter. I think it's a combination of both, like you mentioned. When you think
Mm-hmm.
about that particular play, that's something that that's just you just have to work on. That's
Yeah.
something that's all about repetition, like knowing and understanding the
Yeah.
timing of that of screens, and knowing that, hey, I cannot go down the field when I have a field that the quarterback hasn't thrown that football just yet, or
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Mariota has to get the ball out quicker, or he
Yeah.
has to get rid of the football quicker. And I think that that's something that we know that, hey, there are some things that Marcus Mariota needs to do better,
Yes.
and that
And
may
can
be
do.
one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That has to be one of them, because it's a pattern when it comes to the Falcons getting penalties. Now,
Mm-hmm.
because when you think about getting down to that red zone and you get a penalty, then you backed up, and then you have to throw the football, and then your play sheet shrinks, right? Like, I can't call that run that I was probably going to run on second and goal on the
Mm-hmm.
3 yard on the 3 yard line going
Yeah.
in. I can't
Yeah.
run that on as second and on third and goal, or second and goal, and I'm on the 14 going in. So
Mm-hmm.
things just change, and it's almost kind of like a snowball effect
Yes.
when it comes with the Falcons, because that's why you end up in situations where Young Waku is kicking a field goal much longer than what you would like him to be doing
Oh,
at
yeah.
this moment. And I think that that's something that you don't want to have to do as an offense, because at the end of the day, like, they were 2 for 2 in the red zone. I think
Mm-hmm.
Arthur Smith likes scoring touchdowns.
Yes.
And I think that's what you're going to need going forward, running this style of offense. You're going to have to
Mm-hmm.
put 6 points on the board. And I think that's what they need to do. And when you think about now, and I'm saying this, but the Falcons were the second least, penalized team in the NFL, right behind the Los Angeles Rams. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like this was a pattern, or this was something that we were used to seeing consistently. It was just something. It was kind of like an aberration. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
obviously you got to give credit to Tampa Bay, because they kind of forced that on them
Sure.
by putting that pressure and making sure that Marcus Mariota was uncomfortable in the pocket. So.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if they're, like I said, they're working on the timing of the plays and making sure they're holding their water when they get down into that red zone, like you said, you always talked about that low red zone. Like, you have to be perfect, and I think that that's not too much to ask when
Right.
you're a team that hasn't been penalized that much in the first place.
Exactly. And if you can keep it clean, then you can find yourself in a situation where you have more opportunities, like we saw with Avery Williams being able to go that 8 yards and take it in for the
Yes.
run, because you can establish the run without penalties. When you get into third and long situations and you're trying to move the chains 10 yards, 15 yards sometimes, because you keep backing yourself up, that makes it more difficult for what has now become a first run offense to actually execute. So
Right.
when we look forward to the 49ers, and we know that's one of the top defenses in the entire league, and you think about what the Falcons were still able to do, it was decent. But when you
Right.
pull the numbers kind of back, the average for yards per carry was good.
Yeah.
Because you had Caleb Huntley over 4, and you had Tyler Algier right there at 4
Right for it.
yards a carry.
Mhm.
But the numbers themselves, when you dig down, is a little bit more challenging because they didn't quite get over the 100-yard mark as a collective. So I'm thinking about that, like, wonder if people are starting to figure out, okay, this is a first run type of offense. We got something for you. And if that's so, then let's just get to a point in place where maybe we do something like we'll talk about hopefully in a moment, or we'll bring it back to you guys tomorrow. Maybe we'll do something like work on this week, giving our running backs an opportunity to become playmakers as pass catchers.
Yeah, and I think that that's essentially what they did, right, in the second half. I believe, when you talk about getting the ball out of Marcus's hand really quickly, so he doesn't have to sit back there and say, "Hey, oh, here's my first read, not there. Okay, then my second read, oh, not there. Oh, here's my check down." No,
Yes.
that's not ideal for the team
That's
and
not
the
his
way
game.
the quarterback. That's not his game at all. So I think that because Arthur Smith talked about this coming into this game. He knew that Todd Bowles was going to send pressure. And I even made a comment during the game. I tweeted out, I was just like, why is Antoine Winfield making tackles in the backfield, 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Like if the safety is sitting up there chilling like that, hey man,
Yes.
that means something is open deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like leave it an extra blocker so you can doggone see if you can doggone take advantage of that or exploit that, because and you saw that a little bit when it on that screen pass to Cardell Hodge, because literally, he had a straight lane to the end zone if he would have caught the football. And I think that those are the adjustments that you saw Arthur Smith make. So the teams can be aware of that, because whatever you put on film, teams are going to try. Because I actually saw something on film in like the first couple of games. I think it was against the Saints, and they were running like a counter play where the backside guard and tackle were getting up and coming around and everything. And Adio Ngadeji looked like he didn't want it. Now they're that. And guess what? Teams, Rams, the Seahawks, everybody, they start running the same thing, because what you put on film, people are going to emulate, especially if it's successful. So I think that the Falcons have to be cognizant of teams having the safeties walk up and getting involved in the run game. And I think Arthur Smith, I believe wholeheartedly that he's going to have a counter for that, because you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for that when it comes to the NFL, because it's a copycat league. Whatever you put out on film, teams are going to try to find it and exploit it.
Indeed, they will. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on the defensive side, because that same walking up the secondary, walking up those corners, those safeties to the line of scrimmage and being ready to make sure that those running backs did not get to the second level last week, that could actually prove very, very powerful for Deebo Samuels. But if you guys want to hear a little bit more about that, let's do it this way. Leave us some comments on your thoughts on what the Falcons can do to actually stop Deebo, or we'll say contain Deebo Samuels. And we'll talk about it from your perspective and ours tomorrow. But today, we got to tell you guys about something that'll get you through. Now, listen, we know in Atlanta, nobody really needs an energy boost right now. Everybody is on one in this city, whether you're on one because the Braves are playing game number 1 in the NLDS, or you're on one because you're excited that the Hawks shored up a couple more players in Onyeka, Okongwu, and Jalen Johnson, or you are excited because you know what? Your Falcons, they're not going to stand for it. Your Falcons are going to come back and do the darn thing. Maybe you're one of those people. Maybe you're somebody who stayed up last night worried about the outcome of game 1 of this NLDS. If that's you, you need a Built Bar. You need a chocolate puff Built Bar, because you know what? That is something that you can take as a snack anywhere you go, any time of the day, and it's not going to weigh you down, because we're talking only 160 calories. So that's not something that you have to burn off, even if you get frustrated during the course of the Braves game, right? Also, you're getting 15 grams of protein. So that's building you up and giving you the good, while it's 100% real chocolate. Here's what I like, guys. You can also watch that Braves game, kick back, and as they're winning game 1, you can enjoy your Built Bar as maybe a gift to yourself, right? Maybe a little treat to yourself. If you want to know more about Built Bars, go to BuiltBar.com, and you can put in the code LOCKED on your first order to get yourself a discount. This is one of the premier chocolate bars. I know I'm not a chocolate person and I like it, the puffs, and Jarvis likes it as well. He is a little bit more of a chocolate person. So take it from him that it is indeed a good look if you are a chocolatier. Again, that is BuiltBar.com. Locked On is your code. Get your discount right now.
Final segment of ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to say thank you for rocking with us throughout the entire show. We really appreciate you guys. You guys have been absolutely killing it when it comes to the support, liking, subscribing, and downloading our podcast wherever you get it. We are up over 4,500 subscribers. Excuse me. We really appreciate you guys for that in advance. But this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture. And sometimes what we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down. Today is no different, because you know what? I ain't gonna even introduce this clip T, and I'm just gonna have fire this bad boy off, and then we're just gonna respond.
Have you been lobbying or asking for some late hits there? Or?
I don't throw the flags.
Bruh. So that was Tom Brady immediately after the game, and we've been talking about it on ATL Day Ones, Mark Zeno, A to Z, hitting hard with John Chuckery about how bull crap of a call that was the roughing the passer that Grady Jarrett, sacked on Tom Brady on. And I think that the reporter, if you didn't hear the reporter, asked him about, was he politicking for a call? And it was clear on the video of the sack that he was clearly asking for where's the flag, and then magically a flag appeared. He's talking about, I don't throw the flags. You don't throw the flags, but you ask for them. So we need you to admit to that, bro, because that's absolutely ridiculous. Because we know Tom gets a little favoritism. I don't mind that, something from time to time, but that's absolutely ridiculous because you're affecting outcomes of the game at that point.
Yeah. And we know you throw tablets, you throw flags, you throw a lot. And you don't have to physically throw the flag in order
like a petulant child around this.
It's just like shade. You don't have to physically throw shade. Yeah. I mean, so you don't have to physically throw a flag to throw a flag. But that's what you did. And what you really did in that whole situation, and maybe, Jarvis, it'll turn out for the good, but I'm not really sure. And here's where I'm going with that. Mm-hmm. Because of some of the situations that took place over and over and over again with pass interference and what was actually a catch, then the NFLPA, along with the NFL, went back and kind of reviewed where they were, and they kind of, moved the needle a little bit.
Right.
So now here we are with this whole roughing the passer piece. So maybe what happened with not just Tom Brady and Grady Jarrett in Sunday night's game, but last night's game, actually with Chris Jones and I believe David Carr, maybe those situations had to happen so that the league can understand it's not just supposed to be reactionary because of what you saw with Tua Tagovailoa, albeit very, very graphic and unsettling to see someone not even have the ability to use their hands because the muscles had gone involuntary at that point because probably partially paralyzed, to be real. Right. But that shouldn't be your only onus. I hope actually that these other two instances don't actually get lost in the shuffle and then the league is just reactionary. I really hope they sit down and think about this because I think one of the things that Chris Jones said post-game, which I thought was very valid, was, what do you expect me to do in that situation? I did the best that I could to not bring these 340 pounds on this guy. I don't know what else to do if you want me to also do my job. And I feel like that's where the league should start because you've made everything such that the quarterback can do his job and do his job extremely well. What about
and for a longer period of time as well, too.
Yeah. Exactly. What about the guy that's defending? What about the guy that's trying to prevent him from doing his job by doing his own job? So I don't know. I really hope that maybe the rules committee is taking a look and saying, wait a minute, the defensive guy may not need the same type of protection as the QB, but he needs protection too so that he can do his job.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's something that, the quarterback isn't the only player on the field. And that's what it seems like with all these rule changes and being catered towards offenses. And like you said, like the rules are being catered to the quarterback to the point where, like I said, they're being allowed to play longer. Tom Brady is 45 years old. I don't care how good he is. Right. That's not supposed to be happening in the NFL. If you play in the NFL for that long, that's just not supposed to happen and that's the only position we're really seeing that happen, right? That's the only position we've seen these guys playing into their late 30s and up into their 40s, and Tom in his mid 40s. So that's something is wrong here. I think there's a bigger picture. Yeah, true enough. The roughing the passer, it was a bad call, it was a horrible call. They need to figure out how to fix that. But let's think about where we're headed here. Because at the end of the day, you got all these cats, these offensive guys getting all these jobs because of these inflated offenses. And then they're getting head coaching jobs and they're not doing well. Nathaniel Hackett, it's just, and you got guys like D'Amico Ryans who have been coaching probably one of his best coaching jobs ever. And he's a former player. He's not getting those opportunities. So I think that we're so offensive minded when it comes to the rules, the players, protecting the players on offense, and there's nothing that puts the defensive players in consideration. That's why I think that what Chris Jones said, he said, we're really about player safety for everybody. Let's look at this bad boy. Let's make sure we're not being reactionary in the moment, because guess what would have happened if you wanted to say, let's just say they wanted to review that play, right? Or that was reviewable. You would have threw the flag in it initially, okay, and then you go back and look at the tape, oh, snap. That wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Let me make this right. And I
Yes.
think that, those are some of the things that you need in this game because, hey, people make mistakes. I don't care about you making mistakes, but
Mhm.
if it's a mistake that you can correct, that's when I don't mind you making a mistake. But if it's something that you can't correct and it had an effect on the outcome of the game, that's why I have an issue. And I think that that's something that I believe that the NFL has to take a look at, T.
Yeah, I would agree as well. At this point, we're at the point in place where the conversation keeps coming up as it relates to affecting the game. When
Right.
it starts to affect outcomes of games, that's a problem when
Big
you
problem.
are seeing categorically that positions, like a whole group of position players, essentially have to think before they play. This is a reactionary game. This is a game of instinct. And
Right.
I thought Grady Jarrett and Chris Jones both did a great job of reacting with a few seconds to kind of think about it. But Jarvis, you've played. It's not always like that. You know
No.
that a lot of
Mm-mm.
times it is reactionary and instinctual. And
Mm-hmm.
if you and thinking about it this way too, going back to what Chris Jones said, if you as a defensive lineman or a linebacker, or you're just, part of the pass rush, because we know with the Falcons, anybody can rush the passer. But
Yes. There we go.
what if you're one of those guys who thinks for a hot second too long and you get injured because you maybe froze in the moment and somebody's coming at you full speed? Did anybody ever
Mm-hmm.
think about that and what that could do to a defensive player because he's so busy trying to not hurt somebody? So yeah,
Right.
I do think that this is an opportunity for the league to right the wrong. And maybe, as much as I hate to say it for, the Dirty Bird Nation, maybe what happened to Grady Jarrett won't be in vain because it will have started a conversation about this is some tomfoolery.
Absolutely. And I think that Chris Jones speaking so eloquently about it after the game in that moment, and I think it says a lot about what needs to happen in the NFL. And I think that that's something that we have to definitely keep an eye on. But real quick, T, before we get out of here, there is a rumor. Sham Sharana is reporting that the Hawks are in conversation with the Suns about trading for Jay Crowder. Could this be one of those moves? How I'm feeling. I want to get your thoughts. This could be one of those moves. T, what
One
say you?
of those moves. We have all said it. Let's just be real about the thing. We have all said that we don't necessarily think just because John Collins is going into this season with the Hawks that he will end this season with the Hawks, right? So
Mhm.
there's an opportunity for there. And he's kind of a swing anyway. He can go small forward, he can go power forward, right?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I think that if you get someone, or if you have an opportunity to get someone like Jay Crowder, and you don't have to give up the world for him, which I don't think you do with the Suns, quite
Oh yeah,
honestly, at this
because
point.
they want to get
I
rid of him.
think
They said they're going to get rid of him. Yeah,
there
it's
you go.
already in place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And as long as he's somebody that you feel, after you do your research, you feel that he can actually add something to the locker room as well, because that's the other piece. You don't want to bring somebody in just because they fit from a statistical standpoint. This team has done a magnificent job of trying to fit together during the during training camp and during summer league, right?
Mhm.
So that's my only caveat to it. Yes, I am intrigued. Yes, we will see what happens, but yes, we hope that he's the right fit all the way around. But like you said, intrigued by a lot of things, and hopefully intrigued by talking about how the Braves were able to get the win in game one of the NLDS. We will talk to you guys about it tomorrow. Of course, if the Hawks make any moves tomorrow ahead of the Cleveland Cavaliers game in Cleveland, we'll talk to you guys about that as well. Anything happening on this ATL sports scene, you will know about it right here, or you'll know about it with A to Z with Mark Zeno. And you can check it out on Amazon Fire or Roku. So come back tomorrow. Don't forget to leave your comments about what you think the Falcons need to do about Deebo Samuels, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Have a good day.
Y'all come back now, yeah.